Just signing the order rescinding.
Wonderful, this is done. I will send this into the state tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we got a little bit of time between our next agenda item, which is a public hearing. So I'll take up some other business. I'll take up general business number 1. It's a letter, it's a formal notification from Mary Pat Pomeranski that I'm leaving my position as library assistant with the Raleigh Public Library's Children's Room on October 1, 2020. She says I will help transition a new children's librarian until that time, but I'm not available to work on Saturdays. Can I have a motion to accept her resignation with regrets?
I'll give you that motion.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. General business number 2 is a request from Library Director Pamela Jacobson to lift the hiring freeze for the position of Youth Services Assistant. With the resignation of Mary Pat Pomeranski, Library Director Pam Jacobson is asking the board to lift the hiring freeze so the position of Youth Services Assistant can be posted. Can I have a motion to approve?
Give you that one.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, general business number 3 is a request from Police Chief Scott Dumas to appoint and set the hiring pay rate of Joy C. Stanton to the position of Executive Assistant to the Chief of Police. Chief Dumas is requesting the Board of Selectmen do the following: appoint Joy Stanton to the vacant position of Executive Assistant to the Chief of Police, and 2, set Mrs. Stanton's starting rate of pay at step 4 of the position's pay grade due to the high level of qualifications and experience she will bring to the position. The Personnel Officer and Personnel Advisory Committee reviewed and approved this request and are requesting the board to vote to support this request as well.
Do the motion, Mr.
Motion to, well, there's two issues here. So both of them are, yeah?
Chairman. Yeah, both of them.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, thanks. The motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
I'm going to abstain.
General business number 4 is a request from Council on Aging Director Ellie Davis to hold the annual Council on Aging barbecue in the apparatus bay of the Rowley Fire Station, October 13, 2021. The COA is requesting to hold their annual barbecue on Wednesday, October 13, in the apparatus bay in the fire station. The event was held in this location last year and worked out well. The event is still in the planning stages, depending upon the COVID situation and a number of people signed up. They may not hold it in the fire station, but may look at using it outside the annex under the tent. The meal will not be a buffet due to the COVID concerns. The meals will be individually packaged, similar to last year's event. Chief Broderick has no objections to using apparatus bay in the fire station. If the board supports this request, please vote to authorize the COA annual barbecue in the fire station apparatus bay on October 13, 2021.
Give the motion.
Thank you. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. General business 5 is a road opening permit application from National Grid for the following: to install new gas service at 640 Weathersfield Street, to repair a gas leak at 24 Stony Brook Road. This has been reviewed and signed off by staff. Does the board have any questions or concerns? Hearing none, I will assume the board has no questions or concerns. I'll move on to new business number 1, which is approve a proposal from Haley Ward for landfill test well monitoring services. Debbie is asking the board to authorize her to contract with Haley Ward for landfill monitoring for the fall 2021 and spring 2022. Haley Ward has been providing this service for the past several years, and the town is filed post-closure monitoring reports with the Mass DEP. The cost is $19,900, which is within the $20,000 budget line.
Give you the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. There'll be a period of public comment for the next 5 minutes. I forgot to mention that. New business number 2 is discuss a request from Conservation Agent Brent Baselak to use the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission local technical assistance for update on the town open space and recreation plan and discuss funding options for the balance of the project. Brent is working on an update to the town's open space and recreation plan. The plan needs to be updated. Brent has contacted MVPC, and they will need 16 local technical assistance hours to do this work, along with a $1,500 cost. If we don't use the LTA hours, then the cost to MVP to do this work would be $2,500. The Open Space Committee does not have a budget, nor is there a town meeting appropriation to cover the cost of updating the plan. Brent thought this work would be entirely covered under the LTA program, and that there would not be any cost as it had been in 2014 when we worked on a similar update to the plan. Debbie suggested that in the absence of any funding resources for this work, a reserve fund transfer request be filed with the Finance Committee. Brent has submitted 2 detailed memos covering this project. The action requested by the board is the following. Number 1, vote to support Brent filing a reserve fund transfer request with the Finance Committee for $1,500 to have the funds transferred into the FY22 COMCOM expense budget line to cover the balance of the work needed to complete the update to the plan. 2, approve the MVPC scope of services contract and authorize the chairman to sign it, pending the Finance Committee's approval of the reserve fund transfer. If the FinCom approves the transfer, I will then sign the contract. Approve 16 MVPC LTA hours pending the Finance Committee's approval of the reserve fund transfer. If the FinCom approves the transfer, Selectman Bob Snow will then sign the LTA authorization. We have a motion to approve those 3 elements.
I'll give you that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed, the ayes have it. Okay. We're a couple minutes past 7:10. Come sit up front, Jim? Okay. Okay, this is a continued public hearing on the matter of Farmer Series pouring permit liquor license application filed by Anonymous Brewing LLC for 60 Main Street. This hearing is continued from August 23, 2021, and from July 26, 2021. Mr. Moriarty had requested the continuance because the planning board was reviewing the site plan application on September 8. Town planner Kirk Baker has confirmed that the planning board has approved the site plan and sent the following email message with the attached plan. Read the message, very brief. Debbie, yes, they actually approved the attached site plan with a few revisions, like the inner berm being swapped for a painted line, the residential building rear fence being relocated to allow passenger exit of parallel parked vehicles, reduced number of parallel parking spaces, and the 2 front spaces are being designated for employee parking, loading for the retail space in the house. However, it's going to take Kirk a day or so to write the decision up, as yet there's no decision. By the way, we asked Mr. Souza to advise the DOS about the changes to the parking layout as they affect the auto sales use, which he noted would be less intense than the approval permitted for, in that he would have fewer cars on site for that use. Okay, so Kirk doesn't have the actual decision, but it's been confirmed that the board has approved the site plan application. If the board needs to review the board needs to review the approved site plan and make sure that it conforms to the liquor license application, especially concerning the proposed outdoor patio area. Kirk has informed us that the planning board did not approve an outdoor seating for this business, although the liquor license application shows a beer garden. Attaches a copy of the ABC's advisory with guidelines of outdoor areas and patios. The board will need to set the hours for the service of alcohol. Also, the board should also make sure that the parking spaces for this proposed business do not impact the parking spaces for the Class II dealer's license that was issued on May 17, 2021, in accordance with the 1995 ZBA site plan. The board received written comments from attorney William Sheehan, who serves as trustee of the Rowley Village Green Condominium Association. We have also received email message from a number of individuals who live in Rowley, although I don't know if any of these individuals are abutters, but they all live in Rowley. I'll read their names: Jordan Kane, Christopher and Kristen Morgeses, Nicole Bierstecker, Derek Bierstecker, Christina and Brian Carmody, Bonnie Fries, Christina Bonacera, Christine Lyman, Amy Penniman, Lisa Cotter, Heather, no last name, Colette Burrow, Sarah Spalding, Sarah Early, November Rogers, Sarah Stanley. Is there anyone present at the hearing who would like to speak on the application? Jill?
Good evening, Jill Mann here on behalf of Anonymous Brewing LLC, and with me is Ken Moriarty, who is the principal. I do have a copy of the plan that was approved by the planning board. So basically, during our hearing, it was imperative that we actually seek site plan approval to confirm that the use is actually approval under the bylaw, and that we had a permitted use. So the finding, I
Okay, they do a smaller version.
have one for you too. Just so,
Yep.
excuse me. So we went back before the board a couple of times, and part of that conversation involved Larry Graham, who is the reviewing engineer for the project, just to ensure that, the site plan is acceptable and still provides for safe access throughout, and that the parking was sufficient. So what we had done was actually show the parking spaces. We had a lot of changes we had to make because we had them being completely parallel spaces when they needed to be angled a bit. Not I shouldn't say parallel, because that's parallel parking, perpendicular spaces. And so the angled spaces just made the site more traversable and safer. And then there were certain other limitations. They wanted to make sure we provided certain signage, and that we provided for certain areas within the lot for snow storage, for proper exiting of the vehicle, which all of those things were actually accomplished on this particular plan that you have before you, and this is the version of the plan that was accepted by the planning board. With regard to the parking in particular, the used car dealership, it had on the plan the right to park 10 outdoor spaces. However, Mr. Suso didn't need them. He has 3 parking spaces inside the building that he'll use, and he only wanted to use 7 outside. So this plan actually reflects that. The parking table that was approved by the planning board was such that Mr. Moriarty had 18 spaces, Mr. Sousa with his car had 7, the residential use actually ended up having 2, and then the front retail use had the remaining parking spaces. So there was absolutely ample space on the site for parking.
So are you cutting back the used car sales spaces then?
Yep, he doesn't want them, he doesn't need them.
We should probably change that, update that license to reflect that change.
And he can actually go back and do that to reduce, but the site plan provides the limitation, so to the extent he uses more than what's on a current site plan, he can actually, I guess, get a letter from the building inspector, so he's only entitled now to use those 7. Where that area that was designated for the 7 spaces actually showed where the used car dealership could park, and that's the limit it identifies.
Well, he's got a license now, Mr. Sousa, for X number of spaces, I can't remember.
13.
Yeah, so those are gonna be reduced, so,
To 7.
so is he gonna submit an amended application to
Yeah, I
reduce
mean,
that?
he absolutely can if the board
Well,
would like to
I
see
think
that.
we would like to see that.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah.
We just wanna keep,
Yeah, he's going to have 3 inside, so I'm not 100% sure of how your license is written, if it just says the ability to say 13 on site, or it's 13 parking, or how it works, so it would be reduced at most to 10, because he would keep 3 of the vehicles inside.
inside where?
It's in your packet.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm
The
sorry, I
copy
didn't
of the
see it.
license, and,
That's where it
and
shows,
this is the
right.
approved 1995 ZBA plan, so I think what we'll have to do at a future meeting is he may have to sort of abandon this use that he got as a grandfathered non-conforming before the new zoning went into place, and used car sales are permitted under the zoning with a special permit, so he was able to do this before that zoning went into effect back in 1995, and he had a non-conforming use through the ZBA. So this is attached to that Class 2 dealer license.
That I actually saw, that was the plan that's in your package, is the one pursuant to which we changed the site plan to ensure that those parking spaces were only in those identified areas. So he's actually not abandoning his license, he's simply modifying to reduce down, so it's less impactful.
Right, you said there's 3, will be 3 used cars inside,
Yep.
where are they gonna be?
Inside his building,
They-
Right now they
Says
have-
existing auto repair shop will be,
Yep. So basically, the building is getting cut. So there's, it's like 1,000 square feet of area is actually going to remain the car dealership, you know, the repair facility.
Yeah, there's a, I don't know the exact square footage, but the south side of the building remains his, there's a wall separating the two
Yeah, it's about
spaces.
1,000 square feet, because we take up 2,000.
And he put a lift in, so he's got 2 cars on the ground and 1 car in the lifted.
And then as far as the outdoor area, yeah, you'll see on the plan that we have nothing going on.
So you don't want an outdoor area? I mean,
We would love one, but, you know, we did not get that approved by the planning board because they wanted some time. So, you know, we don't have it on the plan.
Okay.
So what is the footage going to be for the auto repair shop?
It ends up being about 1,000 feet.
1,000
Yeah, I
square feet?
believe that's what it is, isn't it? Because we
I
have,
think there's some other floor plans earlier that were
that I
delivered
submitted,
earlier
yeah.
that had it actually listed
So,
on there.
so I'm taking, by looking at this, is 3,000 square feet for the building?
I think it was like 2046 or something total, or 2,400 total.
So how much
Just
did you
like the
take?
proposed brewery building is 2,016 square feet.
Right, but it's not the whole building for the brewery.
That's right, when they say 2000, I apologize, but when they say 2016, that's the area only for the brewing. So when you look down and you'll see, like, it'll just say area for the brewing, and it's very confusing, isn't it? But that's the case, because the building is in fact, oh boy, this is gonna stress my eyes. I don't know if
The
anybody
building
can.
is 2,016 square feet. Building 2.
This is saying, that's your brewery store, that's what you said. So, is it, it's the side of the building, because remember, I asked this
Oh,
question.
that, the 2016 is for
It's
the
the whole,
proposed brewery.
Were you telling me it's 1,400?
So,
Because we.
I'm confused about the square footage.
Mr. Chairman, if you do look at the liquor license application,
Yeah.
Ms. Moriarty filed for 1,152 square feet
1,000,
for indoor for consumption. He had wanted a 900 square foot outdoor patio, so I don't know if that's gonna be removed from the application this evening, but a separate brewery area for 99 square feet. The room
And-
converted to a walk-in cooler, 63 square feet. The restroom and separated entrance, 135 square feet. So before you is the liquor license application with those dimensions on them from
well, I'm just confused between, the size of the building, and then the auto repair shop is how big?
I'm not certain on the square footage of that part of the building.
maybe you can't tell us, but I was under the impression when we okayed the used car license that they weren't gonna be doing repairs on site, they were gonna be done elsewhere. And Attorney Mann just mentioned that they were gonna be putting a lift in,
No, I just think
So
it's
I-
a big
I-
park.
The lift is for storage.
so it's not gonna be a lift as far as you, and it's not you because It's because of other
They're gonna
licenses.
continue the use they have, I'll be
Right, well,
perfectly honest.
I believe
Yeah,
they said no
don't know.
repairs, so I think that's,
Oh, if there's no repairs, then they continue not to be able to.
I believe that,
Yeah,
I
we
can't,
aren't expanding it.
I'm
It was
doing the
my
best of
understanding
my,
they
can't
had
my
it.
recollection, but I just wanted, in other words, one of my concerns is there's way too much stuff going on in this property.
Well, what's confusing me is the brewery, again, you said it's 1,000?
It's listed on there, I don't know what the
It's on-
exact number is.
Where
off the
is
top of my
that?
head.
It's in your packet, notice of public hearing, so that was what was advertised and sent
Okay,
out.
1,000.
So that's based on the liquor license application in your
Okay.
package. Total square footage, we have 2,349 square feet. Seating capacity 66. Number of entrances 3, number of floors 1 floor, number of exits 5.
But that does include
Right,
that big one.
gotcha.
Here it is, here we go.
So
I knew I was
that's why
gonna find it.
that makes sense if the car's taking up the
This is the
1,000,
floor
right?
plan.
So
Okay.
they're applying for
I have some junk
1152
on the
square
back,
feet,
but that's the floor
and
plan.
then another 1,000 for the used car. Makes sense.
Is the brewery store the tasting room?
Yes.
Yes.
So I noticed in the application, you talked about tasting beer and buying beer to go and other merchandise, what are we talking about?
So, because it's not a typical tasting room like a restaurant or something like that, it's actually, even though you list it as a section 12, because it's on premises, it's really a section 19 liquor license, which is only attributable to pouring, and if you do not have a manufacturing facility, you cannot get a pouring license. So that's what we're applying for, is that, that joint permit. And it's my understanding, Mr. Moriarty had gone back to the ABCC, does have the pouring license and the transportation license, because the pouring, when you sell, you have to have transportation. He has both, and he did ask them to move those 2 licenses to this premises, because he needs to in order to get that pouring license. So what in turn that room is it has a manufacturing facility where he actually brews the beer, and then he will have a tasting counter where you can taste those beers and decide if you'd like to buy them. The best comparison I can have in my mind for a tasting place is, you ever go to Total Wines, they have the tasting room, same thing.
So yeah, you cannot pour and then give samples what you haven't made.
You have to make,
You have to make
You
it
have to
and
brew.
sell it.
you have
So
to.
you can't pour
Yeah, you
anything.
we can't serve gin and
We're not
tonic.
gonna
You could
be-
never come in and get a drink. You
So
can
that's what makes
only,
it different from the cost. What?
but you only can have the beers that are brewed or the
Yeah.
beverages that are
Right.
brewed.
On the location?
Yeah,
Is this your only location, your only place you're brewing beer?
yeah. I mean, for on-site consumption. We do distribute commercial batches that we brew with, in partnership with other larger breweries.
So that's another aspect when you're a brewer, and when you're a farmer brewer, you can have other brewing companies that have licenses brew in a commercial quantity for you. Because a lot of local brewers and smaller brewers like Kevin will brew, for lack of a better term, testing beer. So you'll wanna brew, let's see if this is gonna work, let's see if that's gonna work, and if you think it's going to, then you commercialize it, and you go to one of the big brewing companies that actually have the capacity for big batch brewing and bottling. So that's why we have a relationship with another company that manufactures Kevin's beers. I just didn't want to get it, I wanted to make sure you understood that this is not the only beer we brew.
And the concrete pad in the rear of the building?
That was intended originally to have the outdoor beer garden, but the board was concerned, and wanted to have some time with the pouring license to really allow the facility to kind of get up to speed before it actually began that outdoor component as far as the planning board approval goes. So they asked us to not put it on, and the decision is, as Ms. Egan had told you in her notes, does not include permit for that.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, so this is the first farmer brewery that's actually come up in the liquor licensing in the town. We do have that advisory in here, and as Attorney Mann did say, part of what this is, it's a unique, unique license that the license holder actually gets from the state, but in this case, because he's having the tasting room, makes it like a pouring license, like in a restaurant. But the unique part is that he has to manufacture or brew the beer on site. So that's why the floor plan is showing an area where he's gonna have the equipment to make the beer. And then so it has to be integrated. So it's a very unique permit, and it's, once again, these farmer ones are kind of issued by the state, and then there's a piece at the local level that has to be.
Whenever there's test tasting, they feel that your interests are paramount.
Yeah.
So that's why it's this board that has control over that license.
So in the notes here, it says that the planning board did not approve any outdoor seating, however, they intentionally chose not to prohibit it. So in case the board of selectmen wanted to permit outdoor seating with a license, they could do so and set pertinent parameters.
Exactly, so the purpose of that was, is the board chose to actually grant the outdoor, we would have to go back to the planning board and then develop, and their point was, is, you know, we have to take in a different set of criteria in order to grant the outdoor seating. So they thought, you know, is the board even gonna be willing to grant you outdoor use? So that's why they didn't prohibit it, because they specifically did not want this board to think they were against it. They just didn't, they didn't make a determination and we had very limited conversation about it, to be honest.
Yeah, my only point is that if we approve the license, I would like the stipulation that there be no outdoor seating.
Well, absolutely, I think we have to do that.
Because, you know, you've got a lot going on here, and it's it is a residential area, so, you know, we gotta be really careful with
Yeah, I
how
mean,
we treat the neighbors too.
right, the only reason we even put that on originally, I think it was suggested by somebody, is because of the COVID issues, you know, but at this point, you know, hopefully there's only gonna be.
We can revisit that later. but
Exactly.
I just wanna make sure that, you know, all of a sudden we don't see 10 tables out there and
Nope, you
that
won't.
kind of a thing, so,
You're not going to.
okay.
How much beer are you gonna brew on?
There's the system allows for 1 barrel, probably be brewing maybe 2 barrels of beer a week.
2 barrels, okay.
Just
So-
to have enough to be able to provide, it's a test kitchen.
Okay, so it's a test kitchen, so you're not gonna, how much water are you gonna be using?
Each batch is about 45 gallons
Okay,
that, you know, from start to finish, including cleaning, so around there.
so that's the only place that you're going to be brewing is in this location
Yeah,
in Raleigh?
Yep.
Okay.
So I hate to keep asking questions,
You
but,
shouldn't.
so I walk in, you're open, I walk in, do I get a free, you know, like you go to Budweiser in New Hampshire and they give you a small little cup of Budweiser, different types, is that what we're gonna do? How is this gonna run between the tasting, so-called tasting, selling beer, and serving larger steins of beer at the sit-down tables? I'm just a little confused.
I mean, there will be full pours.
It's gonna be like a bar room?
Essentially, yeah.
It's kinda looking like a bar room to me.
So, I mean, that's, the concept itself is derived from other smaller breweries that, you know, offer the same sort of consumption options. It's, you know, you get a pint of this or a pint of that, or you can get a flight of samples.
But the first tasting, is that free, or do you charge?
Yeah, we'll give tastes out for free.
And
just
after
to
that,
see if
you
people
pay
like them, yeah.
per glass, or if you get some to go?
Exactly, yeah. And we can only sell what we package on site, so
Now, you're gonna can it or bottle it on site?
we'll be bottling mostly, you know, the canning equipment isn't convenient in there at this point. Although there are companies that will come and set up a truck in front of the building for you to do canning like once a month for you, which is kind of a cool option too.
Which you
Could be a
for hours,
possibility.
basically.
No, there'll be bottles that are
Okay,
sealed
fill
up.
bottles, okay.
Yeah.
So you got, ask these questions. 45 gallons per month, per week?
Well, yeah.
That's
But
capacity.
But the
That's capacity. not-
capacity,
yeah.
so we're talking about several different types of beers.
Yep,
I mean,
we'll
that's
generally have a rotation of 6 to 8 styles.
6 to 8, so you'd be brewing one week, and then the next week you'd be brewing another one, I take it?
Yeah, there'll be a set schedule. I have a brewer, a head brewer that, you know, puts the recipes together for me and work with him to, you know, create new styles and get a little bit experimental sometimes, but also giving people what they want at the same time, so.
Question, you have in your license or somewhere in the data you provided about food trucks.
Yeah.
I'm a little, my concern with food trucks is now we're going from nano brewery to basically a bar serving, I mean, people come in, they can order 2, 3, 4, 5 beers if they want, right? I mean, I'm not saying that to be, not driving, but,
Right.
and then getting food, bringing it in. So basically, you're going the full gamut from doing making beer to providing food like a restaurant. I mean, I understand this, you're not providing the restaurant stuff, but
Right,
I'm a little concerned
this-
about food trucks coming in.
Right, and that's why there was a concern about restaurants, and you were not a restaurant, and the food trucks were considered to be what, like an event special, but not
Well,
a,
so the food truck concept, again, is traditional to the style of the facility that I'm opening. And it's also, you know, there are other options too, you can bring your own food, you know, things like that. The idea is just not, we don't have a kitchen, so we cannot provide food. Under the farmer brewery permit, you know, it's strictly just the beer that's brewed on site. We can't sell food without any other additional applications.
So, I have to say this, bring your own lunch.
Bring your own lunch?
Yeah.
Could be.
No, they bring your own bottle, this is bring your own lunch.
Yeah, bring your own BYOF.
What hours are you proposing?
Initially, it'll be Thursday through Sunday. I wanna say, I wrote it into the application, but I believe it was 4 to 9 Thursday, Friday, and 12 to 9 Saturday, and 12 to 6 on Sunday, something along those lines. It is written into the application.
So the planning board did not set hours of operation?
No,
they didn't feel they had the capacity to do that, they thought that was within your purview.
Right.
Yeah, it was a site plan review. So.
I'm comfortable with 9 as a closing time.
Mhm.
You're not gonna have any entertainment, right?
Nope.
So what if down the line he wanted someone to come, like, play the guitar inside on a Saturday
I
afternoon?
think you gotta come back
We'd have to come back for
We'd
it.
have to-
for entertainment.
You have like I think you have 1-day licenses for entertainment, and then you have a permanent license for entertainment.
I like music. No, I do, I like people being creative,
Oh,
and it's like a fun, yeah.
I mean, we're not doing that now, and we
Right.
may be eventually.
Right, I didn't know if there was a difference between like one person in a band, that's why I was asking.
I mean, under the entertainment rules, there
Yeah,
aren't,
there's
believe it or
not.
not, live watching TVs is entertainment.
Wow, so the food truck thing, I feel like, you know, that is, you go outside and you buy yourself a sandwich, and then you either stand outside and eat your sandwich, or you go sit at the table and eat it and throw your stuff in the trash. I like the idea of people having access to food with beer. I understand you can't have food trucks surrounding the building, but I don't think it's like that. I think it's more just so everyone's on the same page. Like a small vehicle parked on the side, one window, you just, like an ice cream truck for sandwiches. Get your food, eat it, toss trash away. So I don't think that a food truck, I don't think one food truck would be on during very strict parameters and days of the week. I don't think that's disruptive.
Yeah, I bring up the food truck, 'cause I've seen them like at Dover and Ipswich at the, offhand, I forget the name of it, behind the Aubuchon,
Yep.
Yeah,
the Great Knot. I have the name wrong, but
Yeah,
they have a food truck there occasionally.
Yeah.
But that's a large parking lot
yeah.
yeah.
in a commercial zone.
Right.
Some of my trepidation is the fact that we're doing this in a residential, there's houses on both sides here and across the street. So I'm a little concerned about doing too much noise, too much activity. Lots of cars in and out, people staying a couple hours drinking beer. And, you know, that's why I'm opposed to the
Our goal is,
outdoor seating. I'm not saying that it's gonna do that, but I think it's something that we need
You have
to
to
make
watch
sure
out
we
for neighbors.
consider
Yeah.
if we give this license.
I think it's also your Bradford Tavern has houses surrounded by it as well. And the V, I know it's different, but I think when you're kinda on Main Street and you get the gas station, you get the smoke shop up the street, and there's a lot going on there.
Part of the approach that we're taking is to, you know, allow for the town to sort of oversee how things progress with this. So, you know, the food truck idea, the outdoor patio, we're scaling it down, so, you know, we're inside, we've got a limited amount of seating, limited amount of parking that we're using just to keep things super low scale, low key, and sort of ease into it and make sure that everyone is comfortable with the way things are going.
Right, the intent is truly to showcase the beer and to try and get traction and to, you know, convert into a large-scale nano brewery, you know, and it really is. And the reason for the food truck was try to have events, but we're not married to that idea. We would still like to be able to have people bring in food if they want to while they're doing a tasting. I mean, that's sometimes nice, people go, yeah, we're gonna try all these beers, you know, we're gonna buy some for a party or something like that. We'd love that, because that's great for business. But we're more than willing to do it in a phased approach. Nobody's trying to, like, you know, load up for bear initially. It's sometimes better if we do slow progression, because then we can generate interest and then do exactly what you said. Kind of expand and build that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure under the liquor license law that we can prohibit food trucks anyway.
I don't know, yeah.
I
mean, we're not
don't know
the,
that, and that probably,
This is, you have the hearing notice, it's really just for that farmer
Right, no, we're not the
service.
permitting board here, the permitting board is the
This is
planning board.
planning board.
It's not a common victualer's license or anything like that
Right.
for food, it's just what's
Yeah,
on
we
that
have no
hearing
comments.
notice.
How big a septic system?
He just installed a new one.
The septic?
Yeah,
I can't remember, but it's plenty big for this use, because we did that.
I was told by both the owner and the installer, Stu, that
Yeah,
it
it's
was more than big
1125.
enough.
Because it's not a restaurant, the demand is very, very, very modest per seat. And then the other uses are almost non-existent.
I would just think about, you know, when it comes to the brewing portion of it.
Yeah, there's very little, it's basically, it's determined by number of seats, not by the actual process. Because even with manufacturing, when you do manufacturing, you base it on the number of employees inside, usually under Title V.
The other thing too is wastewater from the brewing process will be stored in either a tight tank that's buried underground or some other facsimile of a tank that's outside that's pumped out.
Okay, so that
every-
doesn't go through the septic
No, no,
system,
It
it
gets
just goes
pumped
off.
and
All right,
taken off
okay.
site because of the, you can't put that in a Title V
Right.
system because of the beers, the yeasts and all of those
So that was my-
byproducts. So when you have byproducts for any kind of brewing, it does go into an industrial holding tank. And we did discuss that because we had a conversation with the Board of Health, wasn't that it?
Yeah, the Board of Health has requested the tight tank, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna work with them to make sure we get it done.
What was the seating number for individuals?
We have,
The capacity was 66, but
66.
but the parking limits that.
yeah, limits it because we only ended up having 18 spaces, 2 times 36.
Yeah.
Oh. So what we ended up, you know, that parking controls more than Title V in this instance. We have 18 seats.
Excuse me.
We have 18 seats. I mean, 36 seats, what am I saying? 36 seats. And that's what our capacity is limited to.
That's all my questions.
Okay, anyone else have any questions? Anything else you wanna say? No? Okay. So I guess I'll call for a motion to close the public hearing.
Give that motion, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
Motion to close the public hearing is made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it. Okay, so assuming we're going to approve this, there will be, I wrote them down. There will be 3 conditions. All liquor to be consumed inside the premises, no outdoor seating is allowed. No live entertainment and closing, mandatory closing by 9 PM every night.
Okay.
And no public nuisances.
Mr. Chairman, the license should just say what the hours are, so,
Okay,
on it, so that should be part of the motion of the board. And then Mr. Moriarty, I think said, Thursday through Sunday, like it should be spelled out, it needs to be spelled out on the liquor license.
Mhm.
So it'd be Thursday,
Thursday through Sunday. Do you wanna just read what the application has as part of the
I'm,
condition, or?
Do you want us to just restate it? Just want you
Yeah,
to restate it?
I
Okay.
don't see it in the
Um,
package, so I
So
can try to find it.
Thursday and Friday, 4 to 9, Saturday, 12 to 9, Sunday, 12 to 6.
And it's possible we would come back to expand to be able to include maybe a Wednesday, depends on how things are going.
Sure. You can always amend your
Right.
application.
Saturdays. 12 to
Saturday,
9.
12 to 9. But Sunday only 12 to 6.
And what was Friday? Friday was 4 to
4 to
9?
9.
4 to 9.
Thursday and Friday.
4 to 9, okay.
Was that 3?
4 days.
Okay.
Anyone else have anything, any conditions?
No, like I said, I'm just concerned that it's in a residential area.
I'm concerned, too.
The applicant needs to be well aware that,
Yeah.
you know, we start getting lots of complaints from abutting residents, you know, legitimate complaints, I'm not talking about just harassing.
No, we're gonna be good neighbors, I mean, we will be,
We might
and
want to
with
have
it,
you come in and address them, because there's a lot in here in a tight area that's in a residential area. And that's my main concern, is that, you know, we're happy to have you come in to write some business in Raleigh, but at the same time,
well, that's why
we
we're
have to
very
take the
happy.
neighbors and the other residents into consideration with the type of business and the amount of activity here. So we're kind of going out on a limb.
Yeah.
And that's why we're happy to reduce the amount of burden for the outdoor car dealership, even for the number of spaces, because that really does loosen it up a bit.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Okay, motion,
I'll make a motion to approve the liquor license with all liquor, inside, all consumption inside, no entertainment, 9 PM closure every night, no public nuisances, with the hours Thursday, Friday, 4 to 9 PM, Saturday 12 to 9, and Sunday 12 to 6.
Second.
okay, the motion's been made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
All right,
All opposed, the ayes have it.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. I'm gonna send Zegan a better copy of this, because it's like I was too scrappy. Embarrassing to say, but I do. But I will give this, I promise you tomorrow morning, she will get a copy from me. I appreciate your time this evening, take care.
Take care.
thank you for the last copy, those other ones are tough, even with the
You go.
magnifying
Oh,
glass.
did you say, listen, I know,
I know,
the older I get, the better it is.
thank you, good
Take
luck.
care, bye, Deb, thank you.
Good luck.
Your
Thank
next
you.
hearing, your next appointment with Mr. DeCoulis was that canceled or?
No, I think he's right up here.
Oh, I didn't see him. I'm gonna be here for that too.
Oh, okay.
Hey, how are you?
I was hoping it was me.
Why,
Good evening,
Mr.
Mr.
DeCoulis,
like
how-
to sign in, we'll get to sign in. Would you?
Is there a good place to set up an easel with plans?
The camera's right there, Mr. DeCoulis, if that's.
Probably over in that area there.
Sure.
Against that wall, we can always swap. That way the TV camera can get a better view.
Okay, James DeCoulis is here to discuss the following issue pertaining to an open space residential development application off Daniels Road. He's proposing to have 3 private sewer easements crossing under a proposed right-of-way. There's been some feedback that was given to us by our town council. I want to read the town council discusses the septic system issue and what he calls public way issues. I don't think we should be so concerned with the septic system issue, because those issues are for the Board of Health. But in terms of the public way issues, I'll read what Tom Mullen has to say. While not forbidden by any law, the proposal to run easements under the public way raises serious practical problems and would require very careful drafting of the easements. The easement creating a homeowners association and the town meeting article and vote to accept the way subject to such easements, we would have to insist that there be a homeowners association that was responsible for all work on the septic systems and stormwater structures, as well as a full restoration of the roadway after any such work and reimbursement to the town for all costs associated with the shutdown of the public way. We might also insist that the association coordinate with the town, except in emergencies, as to the best times to do such work, and of course, that they comply with DPW rules about and pay applicable fees for street openings. We want to require curb-to-curb resurfacing, not the skimpy trench work that public utilities are allowed to get away with. We should have veto power over the form of instrument used to create the homeowners association, so it's clear that all maintenance of the easements is the association's responsibility, and that the town has the power, but not the duty, to do the work at the association's expense if they delay unreasonably in permitting any necessary work. We should be given the right to sue the association for our costs in a contract action and to collect our fees with any judgment secured by liens on the property of the association members, i.e. the homeowners, will be jointly and severally liable with the association. I have several examples of homeowner association instruments of the kind just described. We might also require that the association post a bond or deposit with the town can draw upon if it needs to do such work or if it's harmed by the use or neglect of the easements. We may want to think about whether we need the right to demand relocation or at least temporary relocation of some of the easements to permit installation and maintenance of utilities. In the way, finally, our town meeting article and vote will have to make clear that we are accepting the way as a public way subject to the easements which we have approved. So that's our town council's opinion of what the town would have to do in the event that you have you're proposing a public way with easements and if you want to have accepted with the town, we would have to get this all worked out before it went to town meeting. So that's the answer to your question, I think. But
Well, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Again, my name is James DeCoulos. I'm here representing the Danielsville LLC, which is proposing this 9-lot open space residential development off of Daniels Road. Before you up on the easel, I have 2 sets of plans from our plan set, which it's a double-sided set here. As a matter of fact, yeah, if you look at that side first. Oops. And what Mr. Chairman just read into the record was the response from Town Council dated August 19th. Once I got a copy of that, I subsequently wrote a letter to, Debbie, do you want that copy? I subsequently wrote a letter August 24th to Debbie Mesegan regarding the issues the town council brought up regarding the shared septic system as well as the sewer easements. As to the shared septic system, Mr. Mullen wrote on August 26th that he agreed with my remarks that there's no variance required. I have a copy of his, would you like me to share those? That's my letter and
we have them.
Town council's response, the 24th and 26th.
Yes.
Okay. So, effectively, what that means is that, as he stated in his 26th response, is that the shared septic system does not require variance. It's a system that's very widely used throughout the Commonwealth. The town of Raleigh has seen it in condominium associations and apartment buildings, but not in a setting like this, where it's a private subdivision. And the reason why we're doing this is because what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a town common, if you will. It's a traditional New England style common, where we're taking advantage of excellent soils that are found in this general area here, and not requiring more trees to come down and further natural resource destruction for the 9 lots. So what we're doing is we're creating a town common here and having the shared septic system and all the trees be cut down in that area there, and allowing the sewage. Each house will discharge to a septic tank, and then it'll flow by gravity to a dual pump chamber right in the middle, and then leach into a high advanced Presby enviroseptic system. So this is the overall concept of the plan. I've got my back to the camera here. I'm gonna try to, if you don't mind, just move a little bit here. What I'm gonna try to, what I just wanna show you is that this is a 21-acre parcel, which starts here at Daniels Road. We've got the George Daniels wagon factory right here at that fun reverse curve. So it's a 21-acre parcel that general outline is like this, as you can see on the sheet. And what we're doing is dedicating 14 acres of open space here in this bold hatch, and then clustering the residential development in this remaining land here. And then that town common will be dedicated for the homeowners association. We will have a homeowners association like a traditional condo, but that will effectively be open space as well. So what we've done here is we've just sort of summarized the open space allowances. The total area of the parcel is 21 acres. The area of dedicated open space is 14 acres. That's what's in this hatch here, or this thick line here. And then area dedicated for the homeowners association here will be about 1 acre. So altogether, between this shared septic system area and the small parcel here, together with this dedicated open space, we're basically protecting 15 acres of land from development, and then just clustering the homes on small lots that are gonna range in size from about 18,000 square feet, about a half an acre lots, to about 22,000. So the issue here is, the only remaining issue after town council's August 19th letter that the chairman read into the record was these 3 sewer easements. Because this shared septic system is gonna be private and controlled by the homeowners association, what we need is, so we have lots 1 through 5, and what will happen is the septic tanks, from the septic tanks at each house, it'll flow by gravity to accommodate crossing at this location, cross underneath a proposed public way, and then for lots 6 and 7, same thing, there'll be a sewer easement under the public way in this vicinity, and then the 3rd easement would be here for lots 8 and 9. So town council brought up the issue of having to tear the road up, and the other thing that he brought up was we had proposed that the stormwater infiltration be discharged under the roadway. We've abandoned that. And the reason why we did that was to reduce the amount of trees coming down. We were trying to save as much of the natural habitat as possible. It got to be a little too complicated and too cumbersome for town highway department to deal with. So we've abandoned that and gone with a traditional low-impact development stormwater management system that the town is very widely seen. So the only issue then is, so sort of taking 2 things off the table. Shared septic systems off the table, town council agrees with that, and concept of having to rip up the road for stormwater controls off the table. So we're left with this sewer crossing, and what we have, I think, have you seen this detail?
Yep,
Mr.
yep,
Chairman?
okay, that's it.
So what we have is, we're gonna encase the sewer pipe in concrete underneath the roadway at these 3 locations. And we will never expect it ever to have to be torn up, because what's gonna happen is, there'll be a sleeve that'll be encased in concrete, and the sewer pipe will slide inside this concrete encased sleeve. So if there's ever a failure, a lot of times we use double piping for underground storage tank systems, for instance, and what we'll do is we'll have a sensor inside the inner wall of we'll have dual wall piping, and sometimes we have sensors in the middle, so if there's a leak, it can actually pick up the leak inside the outer containment pipe. So if there's ever a problem with that pipe, which we never expect, because it's gonna be plastic, it's not like the old clay bell and spigot pipes that used to be used in the cities in the past, but if there ever is a problem, it's just a simple matter of sliding the pipe out in this concrete encased crossing and putting a new one back in. So the reason why I'm here is because we want to propose this way, which is before the planning board. We want to propose it for acceptance by the town. And once the planning board does that, we would like to officially file a request for acceptance. And in order to do that, we will achieve the requirements that town council requested for the...
Well, if I understand you correctly, before the subdivision is finally approved and built, you're going to be requesting acceptance of the road?
Well, we'll probably request it after the construction, right?
Yeah, because the procedure, maybe you know, procedure we follow is the project has to be approved
Right.
and built, and then we get your as-built plans.
Yep.
And then we submit it to the town meeting with a recommendation in favor of
Right.
accepting the road. So
That'll be the
So
same,
this-
similar
this-
track, yep.
this is many years, you know, most of us probably won't even be on the board when this happens, but.
Right. No,
The
I
way things
expect
go.
that as well.
So I just wanted to make that clear.
Yep, no, it's standard protocol
Right.
for accepting for a public way.
Right.
But, you know, just to avoid any hiccups after the road gets constructed, and it's like, well, what are you talking about, you know, we didn't expect this. We just were trying to deal with all the potential issues now rather than later, and just to try to anticipate things before we put the pedal to the metal and finalize the plans for planning
I
board
got a
endorsement.
question on this sewer pipe going across.
Mhm.
It shows an 8-inch PVC sewer pipe and a 12-inch sleeve.
Yes,
Is that gonna be all underground on both sides of the road? In other words, is there gonna be any of that part that's visible
none.
to the surface of the land? So my question really is not so much a child, but be 4 inches, but if you have, you know, animals nesting in that 4-inch area, that, I would think that'd be rather attractive to them.
Yeah.
With some heat, it would be warm and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. I just, so that whole, in other words, this whole system here will be invisible unless you dig it up.
Absolutely, absolutely. The issue that you described is common for stormwater management. Like, for instance, we'll oftentimes design outfalls,
Right.
and that's where we have problems with beavers and woodchucks and skunks, whatever. I mean, anything can go in there and find a nice home. I've got raccoons nesting in the catch basin across the street from me in Belmont. And it's a real big problem because they end up affecting how the stormwater can flow out. But here in this system here, all underground.
All underground.
And, you know, we'll have catch basins, we'll have cleanouts at certain points. But it's, you know, you'll have to like expose the catch basin cover and get down into it to get exposure to the pipe. And we don't want anyone exposed to it. It'll be a concentrated sewer flow. It'll be rid of sediment because it'll have gone through septic tanks, and that's the benefits. Septic tanks provide what we call primary sewage treatment. So it takes care of the sediment and all the solids that are in sewage. So by the time it's leaving your septic tank, we're dealing with a concentrated sewage effluent. But still, we don't want anyone exposed to that. It's not healthy, and that's not what Title V allows or the US Clean Water Act contemplated. So all underground, no one will ever see it. It'll get to a pump chamber here. You may see that our pump chamber will probably have covers over it, catch basin covers, manhole covers, cast iron manhole covers. And then the Presby system itself will have access covers as well. But they'll all be flush to the ground. A child will not be able to lift up the 100-pound cast iron cover without a lot of help.
So that loop was originally, I think in earlier versions, was gonna be private, and now it's all town.
That's right,
If we
Mr. Snow.
approve it, it'll all be town road.
That's right. That was the hiccup that we had in March that I came before the board on virtually. We had originally proposed that this way be private, and we have now since made that a public one-way, so that the snow plows, the town highway department, and fire department, police, no one can have any apprehension from the town departments as to going around that loop. And it also provides a public benefit too. I mean, we got 3 public parking spaces at the end here, tied into the public conservation land, so we think it's gonna be a nice public asset to the town and a nice example of planning for the future as to how we can sort of create and parallel, mimic a town village here in the 21st century, similar to when Raleigh was first settled in the 17th century.
Was there any sidewalks or?
Yes, so we have a sidewalk along the easterly side of the road,
Okay.
and that'll go down to the 3 public parking spaces. And then you'll be able to cross, we're proposing a boardwalk here across the wetlands to get to the other open space.
So we'll be responsible for the sidewalks plus the 3 parking spaces to clear them out for snow, for instance?
Yes,
Because we've had some issues with other developments on clearing out snow out of public part of parking areas for conservation land and stuff, so. I mean, the one up on Newbury Road was a question, we had a concern, a resident wrote us a letter last year saying, well, that's public access to the conservation land, therefore the town should plow the road. No, here we're gonna plow it anyway, but
Right.
just,
Yeah, the benefit of plowing here is that the plows will come down and they can just push the snow forward and then just continue around the
using
loop.
town water
Town water, yep.
and underground, it'll be underground utilities for
Underground
electric.
utilities, yep.
Okay.
And what the planning board has asked us to do as well, reason why you see this 55-foot easement here is because there's significant lands.
Well, that'll be a road
So,
eventually,
no.
after we're all long gone.
Well, we don't think it's the best place for a future road, but
No.
nonetheless, we are proposing and we'll be building the utilities as though there will be expansion to the north.
How close is this development, the back of your development, to the back of the development off of 49 houses over by Weathersfield Street?
Yeah,
What's the distance?
Falcon Ridge,
Yeah, Falcon. Any idea? Approximately, I don't.
3,000 feet.
Okay, so it's
It's a lot of room.
It's a lot of road, a lot of road.
three-quarters of a mile or whatever.
Yeah, but eventually, when we're all gone, it will be built.
No, well, that was the issue when we talked about the horse track, was it's either gonna be a horse track or houses.
Yeah,
Eventually.
Yeah, this
Like,
is-
once again.
Well, there's another big area south of here, that's where the horse track was gonna go, right? I mean,
Well,
I mean,
this,
there's a
unfortunately,
lot of
was,
land back there.
yeah, there is. I was sort of forced to work with the horse track architects out of St. Louis on this. It was a little uncomfortable, but
Oh, yeah.
so the perimeter of this, actually, the genesis of it is, it originated from some wild horse track.
Yeah, the horse track would have been up on the top line.
Yeah, I think the clubhouse was gonna be like somewhere in this vicinity here, and there was parking,
It's
so
not an issue now anyway, but.
it's not an issue, and it never will be. It was a horrible proposal for this specific land. I mean, it might be appropriate in Middleborough, but Raleigh just, I don't think needs it, nor do the wetlands. I mean, just the impact on the resources would have been significant.
Just out of curiosity, the intersection with Daniels Road, what kind of traffic signage, or is that gonna just be a
Oh, yeah.
stop sign, or
Yeah, no, we're gonna have
that
a
whole,
stop sign
that
there.
whole S curve is bad,
It's very bad.
and then on
Yeah.
top of that, you got the intersection with 133 up there,
Yeah.
which I think there's a fair number of accidents there, you know what I mean? It's not,
Yeah, the
it's
benefit
not the
of
worst
that.
in the section of town, but I've seen a number of accidents in that area. so.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where the
There's nothing
police
you can do
department
about
comes in. Because the safety threat there is speed, right? It's the speed of vehicles
Yeah,
traveling
no.
on Haverhill Street. Because as an intersection design, it's actually a good entry point because you've got excellent
Yeah, it's good
visibility.
visibility, I don't know
Right.
if cars crash there anyway, but.
Yeah, the problem is the speed of vehicles going through this. But as to the reverse curve, the worst, we've actually pulled some data out of Mass DOT, and there have been a couple accidents in this vicinity here in front of the factory, the old George Daniels
Yeah, no, it's-
wagon factory. And the problem, the more serious, the more dangerous aspect of this road is here at the wagon factory, because it's a narrow funnel.
Narrows
through
right
there.
down.
But what we're doing is, you can see that there's some highlighted area here. We're actually cutting out, I think it's 125 feet of pavement, because we have to get we have to connect to gas, water, and so we're figuring why not we'll make improvements to the road. We're gonna be cutting back the shoulder here on this side. So there's gonna be a significant improvement on that curve safety with signage and reflectors. So we expect that there'll be a major benefit to the
I guess
town.
it is what it is.
Yeah, the worst part of what is the proximity of the wagon factory to the public way. Because the wagon factory is literally just a few
Right
feet
on.
up, it's right on the road.
That's right on the road.
And if someone's traveling fast down Daniels Road here, and there's oncoming traffic, I mean,
Well, then the highway department has, that particular area has put the double line, solid yellow line in
Yeah.
to help keep cars on the right side of the road, not cut the corner.
yeah.
Does
That's the worst
anybody,
thing.
does anybody know the potential for, out in that portion of land out there, for how many houses can be put in there?
Well, there's 49 on the other end, so
Yeah,
I can,
right.
Yeah,
I don't even wanna hazard a guess, I don't know how much good land is up
And the only
there.
reason
It's a lot of
I'm
land.
bringing this up is because of water issues in the future. And, we got a master plan, we talked about placing a second water tank in town. I'm just thinking of the future. It's something that we really need to address.
Yeah, no question. And as a matter of fact, in February of 2019, I had a charrette here in this same room with the Highway Department, Planning Board, Brent, Concom, Frank from Board of Health, Fire Department. I'm not sure if I invited the police or not, but we talked about these issues as to what's gonna happen, where's the best, I mean, is this really the best way to, crossing that 125-foot wetland, is that really the best way to connect to Falcon Ridge? And so I've presented an overall concept plan, big picture stuff, that I'd be glad to provide to the board.
Where do you think the best way to connect to Falcon Ridge is?
The best thing to do is take care of Howdy Ricker's mess. To come in from, I don't know if any of you are familiar, did you know Howdy?
Yes.
Okay, so he's got quite a bit of leftovers on his property there that
We had, years ago, the Board of Health, we had a chance to take that property, and we turned it down because of the issues with the property itself, and what might be on that property,
Yeah,
that we did not wanna get involved in.
Yeah,
We
well-
did not take it, and I'll just leave it at that.
yeah, no,
There was,
I
there
can
was
tell
a
you.
real, and the Board of Health was involved in that, and
Yeah.
we were going back and forth, and we just said, no, we don't want it.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, the family ended up paying the back taxes, and, you know, they straightened that out, but that could be a nightmare over there.
It could be a nightmare, but on the other hand, could be an opportunity.
Oh,
I don't mean to
no,
bring a Chinese proverb up here, but there's an opportunity to get that property cleaned up and have it be a solution to get to Falcon Ridge without any wetland filling.
Plus you got that 123 or 127 acres down by Silver Lane that's
Well,
available.
yeah, no, the
That whole
Ricky is-
area is
Yeah.
ripe for development.
Absolutely, and Tom Rickier, I've been talking with, Debbie Ricker, we have the Rickier who owns that 127 acres, and then we have Ricker who owns Howdy. Debbie is the executor of her father's estate, and so I've been in communications with them, and, but I can tell you, it's probably worse than you even think.
No, I go back a long way.
Okay, all right, so you might know,
We-
but,
Back in my day, we stopped some trucks going down 133 with a lot of 55-gallon drums.
yeah, there's.
The problem was that the police department stopped them too soon, so they couldn't tell where they were going, but we all knew where they were going, you know, it's just one of those things that, so God knows
Yeah,
what's down there in the ground. But anyway, we digress from the,
yeah,
I think you've answered all my questions, and I don't think I have a particular problem with the easements. I think they're as safe as you're gonna be able to make them, you know, with the cement
Sewage.
culverts and the,
Yep.
I mean, that's my opinion, I don't know what everybody else thinks, but
Yeah, probably will never have to be dug up, but
no.
no,
If that's our only issue, then, you know, I think the biggest issue might be just getting the town to okay the road. Town meeting,
right.
you know, that's gonna be, might be a problem, who knows, you know, we don't know.
well, we wanna make it a showpiece. We wanna sort of set an example here. We've got great landscape architects involved, Tom Ryan from Ryan Associates involved them. Tom has worked at Turner's Hill in Ipswich, and he's very familiar, you know, he's been working with me close on this. We wanna sort of set, you know, a nice standard for the town for future OSRD projects.
So this whole area's been on the books for a lot of years, we've been discussing.
Yeah. My dad has.
Well, your father came
Yeah.
in a long time
A
back.
long time.
With the original proposals, and I think the boards will probably be happy to get this
Absolutely.
buttoned up and,
No, Brent's
Done.
thrilled that he's getting conservation land
oh
rather
yeah,
than,
that's, I'm
yeah.
sure.
No, and he's been a pleasure to work with. So, I don't need a vote or anything, Mr. Chairman, it's just, you know, one of these things I just wanted to run by the board and, just, you know, get some feedback from you, which I graciously appreciate. And, if you have any questions, if you wanna see that master plan that I proposed, to the planning board, I'd be glad to forward that. Just showing that, the purpose of it was to look at wetland alternatives, quite frankly, you know, because the board wanted to assure that we had that 55-foot easement for connecting to Falcon Ridge, but there are better alternatives. And,
We're better off to keep the options open now than try to go back and open them up.
absolutely, and that's why the utilities, as part of this project, will allow for future expansion, even though we think it's not prudent, but we're gonna provide for it anyway. I mean, it's, you know, for instance, underground electrical conduits, I mean, it doesn't really harm. The cost of material to put a couple of extra 4-inch PVC conduits in while the trench is open is nothing. you know, or the cost to increase a water main from, you know, maybe 8 to 12 inches is, you know, it's something, but it's, in the big scheme of things, it's something that can
The
be
initial
absorbed.
project was no problem putting the shovel in the ground, it's after you put everything in the ground and then you have to bring the shovel back.
Yep,
Right.
yep.
That's when the
We
price.
don't wanna bring the shovel back.
That's
Yep.
right.
Great,
I'm satisfied on that.
great. Well,
Okay,
thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Good luck.
thank you.
Okay. Next on our agenda, we have a 7:30 appointment with Police Chief Scott Dumas to discuss filing home rule legislation to authorize retired police officers to work detail shifts. We're a little beyond the 7:30. Chief, want to come up here? Chief would like to discuss the possibility of filing special legislation to allow the town to hire retired police officers to work on detail shifts. The mandatory state retirement age for police officers is 65. The only option to do this is for a municipality to file special legislation. So we got a letter from our Labor Council, Joe Fair, regarding this whole issue. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, I think he recommends that we not go beyond the 65 mandatory retirement age.
That's what he puts it in.
Yeah, right, so that's his opinion.
Correct.
So you disagree with that? Or you want to?
No, so just by way of background, back in 2017, we had an officer retire, that we were seeking to be appointed as a reserve police officer after retirement. We sought legal opinion on that, and the recommendation came back. This is the recommendation that came back, and the bottom line was not to do anything until there was special legislation in place, because there's a lot of considerations that the town needs to make that goes into this. It's not as simple as say yes or no. There's some legal liabilities, you know, that can open the town up, and he said regardless, don't do anything until you have special legislation in place. We did not have that in place at the time, therefore the officer wasn't appointed someplace else, and the issue died on the vine. It has since been brought up, we have a couple of pending, one mandatory retirement, another officer who's considering retirement that is asked about this home rule petition and whether or not we have an appetite to do it, which we visited Attorney Fair's opinion on all that he lays out in consideration. You know, these are the things that you need to consider. So I don't know if tonight's the night to have the full discussion on what that legislation should look like. I think I'm really just looking for an answer from the Board of Selectmen that, do you want to, because the town of Raleigh's never had a home rule petition to appoint reserve police officers. This is being brought up by officers that want to work details, but there's also, my desire for a reserve police officer is to have that full badge and duty, responsibility, a full gamut of a reserve police officer, which is a full-fledged police officer able to take law enforcement action. I don't think you should consider it any other way, but that's entirely up to you. So that's the only thing that I guess I would want to consider, you know, on your decision. If you're going to do a home rule petition, then it needs to have that ability for the officers to do full police functions as the reserve officers currently do. As far as the other details that Joe points out, or Attorney Fair points out, it's probably for another time to put that together to see what that, you know, what you would want to consider, you know, to include the age, to include, you know, even going down that road, you know, should they be a member of the bargaining unit, what impact does 111 F have, you know, as far as injuries on duty? Those are all things that I don't think should be discussed across this table, then you make a decision on it. I think if you're interested in doing the home rule petition, given what you've known, what he's opined on so far, then I think it should come back into my lap and work with Attorney Fair and the personnel officer and say, okay, what's this gonna look like? You know, what do we want to do, and then bring it back before the board and say, well, here it is, you know, because this is actually legislation, this special legislation has to go to the governor's office, and they have to give their blessing on it, once it's designed, so. I mean, that's my opinion on it, it's really, do you wanna go down the road of home rule? I don't know if you have anything to add on that, Deb, or something.
No, I do know that the chief had expressed a concern about filling details, and,
Yeah,
and so,
that is one
there are
of,
some pending retirements possibly from the police department to an interest from some of the more senior officers that are looking at retirement and working details, because it's just, you know, he's having a hard time filling them, and of course he needs more reserve police officers anyway, to get into the department. So, that's kind of what triggered this, once again, looking at it, and Attorney Fair gave us a sample of a special legislation that was filed in the town of Watertown, similar. And so you can customize this to what the chief is really looking for in terms of what the parameters would be for a retired police officer, taking into consideration some of those legal requirements like 111F, or are they part of the bargaining unit or not, or
right,
they're not just flagged then, but they're gonna, the intent is that they would be with a badge and look like a police officer and respond if need to some
In our-
situation that may happen outside of the detail.
right, in our, we'd have to probably do a deeper consideration, because reserve officers in Raleigh are part of bargaining unit, whereas in other towns, they may or may not, most are not. Some are, ours are, so that's further consideration, we'd have to see what this whole thing will look like, which is why, like I said, it's not really a simple concept, it really needs to be a thought-out process as far as the implications of it. But before we even go down that road is whether or not you even wanna go down that road, you know, as far as the home rule petition, so I guess that's what I'm looking for.
As somebody who used to request details quite a bit, there were times when I had, in the job position I held, very hard to fill positions, details in the morning, even in the late afternoon to try to get them for the next day.
Yeah, the details,
And that, it's kind of cyclical.
it is, but right now, it's, you know, to be honest with you, and Debbie mentioned that there's, the under officers don't want more details anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's most of the older guys that are doing the detail work, and, if some of those folks walk out the door, it's gonna be even more difficult to do.
So we're talking a police officer who's 65 and would be retiring, and then we'd extend it beyond 65?
So there's a,
No, that's what
It's
Joe
just a-
Fair is saying we shouldn't do, right?
right, it's, the question is, should we be appointing retired officers, as reserve officers after they retired? For the
Right.
purposes of working as a reserve officer, but also filling details. Attorney Fair specifically addresses that issue, as far as ages, and, the age, I can never say this word.
Yeah.
Annuation, on that, and the recommendation, given the fact on that specific issue is because it is considered a bona fide job requirement, and in the town of Raleigh, we want that full service reserve police officer,
Right.
all functions of police officer, then that is in and of itself, a mandate by the law which does not allow that.
And we'd be
Even though-
subjecting ourselves to liability, lawsuits, whatever, if we allowed people to work past their 65th birthday as on a detail, because they are officers. That's why I read Joe's.
Right, there has been some, I think it's PRAC is what he said, personal employment, whatever the initialations, that said that you can have somebody function as a police officer beyond the age of 65. but not a but they determined that that was not a full-fledged police officer. In other words, he didn't have all the powers of arrest like our reserve police officers do. So there was a differentiation between those that work beyond the age of 65 and those that don't. You know, they're more special police officers, as opposed to how we define reserve police officers within the town of Raleigh and how it's defined through the CBA. So there is a difference between the two. The recommendation from Attorney Fair is, in that specific instance, is to not go, you know, someone who's 65, no, that's the end.
Right.
And that's why it's important that if we go down this road, that we clearly define what that criteria is. So, you know, it also, you know, so you're not accused of, well, favoritism. Well, you like that guy, therefore he's appointed, and you don't like that person, therefore he's not appointed. You know, here's the criteria, here's what you need to meet, you know? Then you can get into, you know, whether or not you meet the criteria. And we can, I believe we could even put a PAT, you know, a physical fitness test attached to the whole criteria if we were to do and go down this road. So the benefit of the home rule is you can define it how you want to define it as a board.
But basically, we're looking to extend it beyond 65.
No.
Not necessarily.
No,
No,
It would
65
just
would be fine.
retire when you're younger than 65.
That opens up a whole barrel of
If you
work.
retire
To
at
be
55, you
reserve.
would be able to do this, but once you hit 65, you'd be out of
I am being asked to, by one particular officer, Joe, to do that.
Okay.
I've tried to keep names out of it, because it's really about, what we should do as a town.
Right.
right.
But that is why this got brought up again, this is why the officer got brought up again. And I would inform that officer what the opinion was 3 years ago, but I'll bring it up again anyways, because that officer's not the only one that's brought it up.
But 55 is typical for a retirement age?
No, it varies, you know, it
Yeah,
depends how many years you got on, how old you are.
They don't have to, but
You
it
don't have
has.
to. You have to,
the group
mandatory
board-
at 65.
Yeah, they have a different retirement age.
You know, my own feeling is that at 65, you're done.
Yeah.
That's my own feeling. It does not happen in other towns. I see surrounding towns have some much older.
Yeah,
Much older people.
there are folks that do it, but I don't know, what exactly, I know the ones that do it that are over that age, they don't do a reserve shifts, they
Yeah, no,
strictly
it's
do
a-
details and,
I think if we appoint them as reserves, now you're talking about they have to get so much training every year and things
Yeah.
like that, right? I mean, there's a lot of obligations when you're a reserve officer versus a detail guy, I guess. I mean, I don't know what the technical terms are, but
right, and,
if we're gonna appoint somebody as a reserve officer after they're full-time, they have to maintain that reserve status by taking in-service training,
they have
I would
to
say a
meet all the criteria.
PAT test, physical test, medical, probably, I don't know.
They have to meet all the criteria
Yeah.
that the reserve officer,
That's it.
currently meets. And that's why it's, how we define it is why we need to consider it. What we need to consider may not be what Newbury or Ipswich or any other surrounding
Right.
town needs to consider. You know, because ours is different, ours is unique. And we can define it based upon that, the uniqueness, or not.
Well, I don't know what, I have no objection to it. It seems like it might be worth, something that's worth pursuing, but that's my initial reaction.
Yeah, I think, I would say, I kind of look at it in somewhat of a favorable light. I think the issue is in the details. I don't mean details, paid details. In the nitty gritty of, wait a minute, what is, if we do that, what other ramifications does that create?
what are the liabilities we have?
Such as training.
Yeah.
In other words, was it 40 hours a year you have to train?
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, that's 40 hours we're gonna pay, not a detail, a guy that does mainly details would be, you know, we're gonna pay for that training time.
Well, I think if the board agrees to this concept, the chief Dumas will work with the labor attorney and look at, like we have the Watertown example, maybe some others, and get something that's customized that would satisfy the board and, you know, with respect to some of these issues. But it's gonna take some time to work on if it's something that you wanna do and we get it ready for a town meeting. and then go to file it with the
And the other
legislature.
the other big nut here is, when you retire, you're only allowed to work 960 hours,
Right.
which is about 16 hours a week. So if we have to train someone a certain number of hours, that cuts into, and then that allows them to work maybe 2 details a week. There's a lot of, I'm not objecting to looking at it, but I think we gotta be cognizant of the fact that we really get into some, if you read through this Watertown thing, there's a lot of issues here. There really is.
Yeah, you really need to be specific as to what you desire for them to do. And, the way I read Watertown, is they're more special police officers than they are reserve
Yeah,
reserve police officers, and that might just be a different designation. And if there is a different designation, well, that's something that'll be identified, and that wouldn't meet the reserve requirement, but that doesn't meet my desire.
At this particular time, if you can't fill a detail,
Yeah.
what's the position?
We either cancel it,
Yep.
or the first thing is we go outside, we go
Right.
to a different jurisdiction to see
Right.
if we can get a building. But they're all having the same issues
We
we're
have
having,
the same issue.
and then we cancel it. If it's something that, geez, it really needs to get done, well, how long is it actually, it will actually take place? And, if I can spare a duty officer, I'll do it. But most of the times, we'll just cancel it, sorry, you got to reschedule.
Yeah, I mean,
That
it goes right
doesn't always
into
work
the.
either, too, by the way. Sometimes we'll find, we'll tell them, no, you can't do it, and we'll drive down the road and there's a truck.
And there's a truck that,
Well, if it's an emergency, they have to do it, I guess.
Yeah, the emergencies, we work with them, but, it's the other stuff too, because they got a schedule, so they got their workload, that this is what you gotta do today, and they try to do it. And they're not the best either, as far as notifications, they'll need a detail in Raleigh next week, but they'll wait till last night, to call for that detail, so.
That's hard.
Yeah.
We gotta look at it too, that if we decide to explore this, we're talking a lot of lawyer hours, I assume, to put this whole thing together. I mean, your time is, you're working anyway.
Yeah, it's
Your
mostly
input,
gonna
but I
be,
mean, that the issue is gonna be the legal technicalities of what we're doing, how we're doing it, which is gonna take up a lot of hours for a lawyer to look at. And, so. It'd be interesting to see if there's some other towns around that have done this besides, we got the Watertown one. And see, are there other towns that are doing this, are they as reserve officers, or are they, special police, or? I mean, you get to the point where they're almost like a civilian guard, the guys that hold the stop signs, and which has been an issue, but
flaggers, yeah.
without having to carry a gun and be a police officer per se, so. And should they be identified separately with different kind of uniform? I mean, there's a lot of technicalities here.
Right.
Liability wise for the town, we have to be very, very careful what we're stepping into.
And if we are to go down that road, that's not something that I'm in favor of. If we're gonna create a special designation of a special police officer, in other words, someone who's just gonna be ultimately a flagger.
I think that's why we kind of
And
stepped off didn't do it last time, because
Yeah.
the more we looked at it, the more involved it got. And, I don't know, I don't mind taking a look at it, but I'm leery of the whole thing, 'cause I think we're opening up a can of worms.
Well, I have asked different jurisdictions and I just haven't been successful in getting the actual legislation other than the one that Joe provided, from Watertown. Watertown is not Raleigh,
no,
but I know there are budding jurisdictions. So I could make a refocused effort on trying to see if what they have for their home.
Some of them might have not done anything,
Well, that's what,
which is
I
a
think-
liability.
I think maybe, I don't know.
I don't open that door, but,
Yeah.
they just, go ahead. Come in on Tuesday, out on Route 1 at Central Street, you're there. I mean, I think this is a complicated process. To do this legally,
To do this the proper way, it is,
Yeah.
and I don't think there's any other way but to do it the proper way.
well, 300 towns in Massachusetts, I would think that somebody has tried to look at this.
No, I mean, Watertown,
Some
I
have
assume
done
they
it.
passed it.
Besides Watertown, I mean.
Yeah, folks have done it, you know, correctly, it's out there someplace as far
Yeah.
as, you know, but there's also other different home rule petitions, it's not just
Yeah.
us to do it. I know there's some home rule chiefs that are working under, you know, beyond 65, under a home rule petition. So, it's out there.
It'd be interesting to get
But, you know, what Ms. Peterson says, yeah, there's some legal costs associated with it, you know, to consider all the, just this letter, I'm sure, costs some money, because there's a lot of laws that were relegated and researched, it says this impacts it, this impacts it, this impacts it, so if you were to do this, consider this, and this. Well, now we need to consider this, and what else we didn't think of, you know, so, you're right,
Does the Chiefs of Police Association take any stand on this kind of stuff?
I don't know if they've taken the stand on it, one way or the other, I know it happens, and like I said, I know chiefs that do it, so I don't know how strong
Yeah, yeah.
they'd be advocating against it, you know.
Well, maybe, you know, I don't wanna do all the talking here, but it might be worthwhile letting Joe do a preliminary look with you and give us an outline of what the legal issues that he sees, you know, without getting deep into the weeds of documentation and formal reading and stuff. I mean, if an officer's gonna retire in, you know, next June, I mean, nothing's gonna happen before then, obviously. I mean, this is, the special legislations can be a 2, 3, 4 year process depending on what the legislature's willing to do.
Yeah, generally, these are decided at the end of the calendar year, you know, for the legislature,
You know,
to be in effect for the next calendar year, so, I don't know if there's something that we can get out as quickly as that, I don't know if it has to go to town
It
meeting.
would go to town meeting and then they would file it.
So that's at least another
Hmm.
process. So, yeah, I mean, I can, it just, you know, with Ned's permission, you know, tell Joseph, okay, we wanna dig a little deeper into this opinion based upon our CBA. We're the full functioning of a police officer, what else do we need to consider, you know, without, you know, getting too heavy into it? And we can discuss it further. I don't know if that would, we can bring those results to a PAC and then bring it here, or if that's, we'll bring it
I
back
think
here
if we
in
can
June.
get some more, you know, maybe some local from the North Shore area, if some of the municipalities, and I can reach out to see if they have anything like this.
Well, yeah, it'd be interesting to see
Katie Law may have some
what are some
comments.
other examples that don't do it just particularly, because Watertown doesn't hire over 70, or over 65. And I'm curious about how how it works with the whole retirement and the 960 hours, because I think that puts a severe limitation on it, especially if you gotta do training with people and those kinds of things, and, you know, it's complicated.
I think some of that, I don't know if Watertown was one, but I think some of them put the training aspect, you know, whether the.
Yeah, it's probably, they
put it
refer to a lot of
on-
laws, which I don't know what
I
the,
think
you know,
it
chapter and
says in there
sections
is that the special police officer would have to pay for the uniforms, training, and equipment shall be worn by the special police officer. That's right in the law.
Okay, so we have, yeah, those are the kind of issues we really need to look at.
And then, kinda, that's what I mean, if the selectmen are interested in doing this, you know, chief would work on, like, just different things that, different features of what would be customized into a bill that would be filed in the town, for the town, that would have different things like that in there.
Yeah, I don't know, myself, I don't have a problem with taking a preliminary look,
Meaning,
just to get an idea of what's the parameter of issues and problems, and maybe if Joe can come up with, Attorney Fair can come up with, you know, a few other examples of communities that have this, that we could take a look at. You know, we don't wanna reinvent the wheel necessarily,
Yeah.
and, you know, maybe we can work something out. I'm a little doubtful, but certainly willing to take a look at it.
But it would be nice to get some input from a community smaller and closer to,
Yeah, and I think, Joe, the last time we addressed this, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, whatever, we looked at it and kinda turned it down, it's popping up again. So I think we need to look at it a little deeper anyway, even if we don't do it, because it's probably gonna pop up again in
Yeah.
5 years or whatever.
Yeah, because I really
It's
think,
one of those reoccurring issues, and I think it's important for us to do our homework each time it comes up, so that we just don't give it a blanket, no, we're not interested in.
yeah, I don't think the issue really got pushed because the special legislation wasn't in place at that time.
Right.
And another avenue was taken, so, but yeah, I think we should do something definitive one way or the other.
Yeah, I think we should, take a look at it.
Let's
Don't get too
explore
deep
it.
into the
Yes.
weeds, but
Yeah, explore it, take a
explore
look.
it and come back and
Yeah.
work with Ms. Egan, and she can keep us up to date on what's going on, and at some point we can bring it back for a discussion again.
Okay, perfect.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you. And I did want to just take a minute to thank the Personal Advisory Committee and Personnel Officer for meeting with me last week to discuss the positioning of the executive assistant, and obviously the board of selectmen for accepting that recommendation to place her in that pay grade. I really think it's gonna make a difference, and I think she's gonna work out very well for the police fund, so thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a critical position, for sure.
Have a good night.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Take up new business number 3, I think that's what it's, Conservation Agent Brent Baselak, who oversees the town's compliance with the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, has been working with MVPC under a contract to inspect stormwater drainage structures. He has been using a mobile app to do this work. He is requesting the board approve an extension of the stormwater management contract with MVPC for FY '22. It costs us $1,500. Will be expended through the town's FY '22 stormwater budget. If the board is in agreement, it needs to vote to approve the contract and authorize me to sign it.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Okay, new business number 4. Request from the Personnel Advisory Committee to rescind the hiring freeze. The PAC is asking that this policy be rescinded. It has been placed for more than 10 years, and the circumstances in which it was put in place no longer exist. The positions that are posted through the Personnel Department have funded in existing budgets. There is a long lag time between when an employee files a notice of resignation and when the position can be posted.
Yeah, basically, Mr. Chairman, as the chairman of the PAC, working with Ms. Egan, who's the personnel officer, this is something that was done way back when we had to cut the budgets by 2-3% or whatever, and a real budget crunch. In my time on the board, I don't recall that we've ever not
No,
hired.
my time, we haven't.
We've never not hired, so I mean,
Yeah.
all the positions we have are essential, really. Right. I mean, we don't have any extra people kind of hanging around doing nothing.
No,
So this just, it just eliminates our work for the staff and postings and timeframes and all the rest of it. So I would recommend that absolutely the Personnel Advisory Committee discussed all this, and we highly recommend that, if we never need it again, we can always bring it back.
Yeah, right.
For right now, it's just
Yeah.
we go through this every couple of meetings. We have
Yeah.
permission to post or hire, I live to hire and freeze it.
Right.
It's just.
It's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, it
that
doesn't
was
mean
on the
anything.
agenda tonight, we had said.
Yeah.
Right.
So I recommend that we vote to
I agree.
Yep.
eliminate it.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to that
I'll
effect.
second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. New business number 5, review zoning board of appeals application filed by Jay Stanley, appealing the building inspector's stop work order and an application for a special permit for an expansion of a non-conforming use at 600 Newburyport Turnpike. ZBA has submitted a copy of an application they received from Jay Stanley appealing the building inspector's stop work order and application for a special permit. This past April, the ZBA sent an application to the Board of Selectmen to review the application filed by Jay Stanley. The Selectmen at their April 26, 2021 meeting reviewed the application, providing the following response to the ZBA by email on April 26. I don't know what happened with, why are we getting this again? I mean, I don't know.
I'm not really clear, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, because the notice, as you see in your packet, says the applicant is appealing the decision made by the inspector of buildings, and that it has the address 600 Newburyport Turnpike. But when you look at what was filed, it's actually an application, they checked for a special permit under section 5.2.
Right. Well, there's a letter from Don Thurston in here that he addressed, I think he seems to address it, saying that they applied for a hearing and then to contest the building
Okay.
inspector's decision, and then they didn't submit anything, so it never went anywhere.
Okay, yeah, it's an appeal and expansion of non-conforming, but it doesn't say in the hearing notice that is a special permit application that's been filed in the hearing notice.
Well, I think we still have the same comment, though, that we made before. The business has too many trucks parked on a too small a lot. The trucks on this property are backed onto Route 1, stopping traffic, and then park in the breakdown lane. This creates a very dangerous area at times. I think we should just, we send them an email saying we repeat our previous comments, which were, that's my opinion.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, and any runoff of this property runs right into the Mill River. I mean,
Yeah.
they got the pavement just about up to the,
Oh, yeah.
up to the Mill River, which
Yeah.
it's a highly, I don't know what the appropriate word is, but a tough spot to be parking all kinds of trucks.
Yeah, right.
Paving trucks, and they deal with, oil type
Yeah,
stuff, and, as well as we've had numbers of complaints from people about the issue of them
yeah,
moving the trucks, parking them, and there's gotta be a better spot they
yeah,
that they should run the business out of as far as, the commercial part of it.
right. Okay, so can I have a motion to that effect? We'll send,
Yep, the same as what you said in April.
Yeah, basically
Okay.
the same, yeah.
anyone wants to add anything?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Old business, update on council on aging flooring project. This is the last COA flooring project update we'll have, right?
We hope so.
Pavilion Floors provided the attached quote to refinish the hardwood floors of the main COA building for a total of $9,755.68, which is $728.68 above the funds available for this project if there are no unforeseen conditions that require additional work. The Friends of the COA sent the board a letter offering to donate $728.68 for the project, and if needed, Friends will make an additional donation to cover any unknown costs discovered once the project is underway. So we need a vote to accept the donation from the Friends, and a separate, well, it doesn't have to be a separate one, a vote to issue a purchase order to Pavilion Floors for the work detailed in the attached quote for a total of $9,755.68.
Make that motion.
Second.
Motions are made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. The minutes of August 23rd, 2021.
Give you a motion for that, Mr. Chairman?
Okay.
August 23rd.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Okay, you get two announcements. A new fire engine will be dedicated in memory of G. Robert Murray on Saturday, September 25, at 2 p.m. at the Rowley Fire Station. All are welcome. There are openings on the Conservation Commission, Open Space Committee, and Board of Shellfish Commissioners. Please check the town website under Board Committee vacancies for more information, or call the Selectmen's office at 948-2372. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll give you that motion, Drew.
I'll second.
Motion to adjourn is made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.